So, you guys showed Cesar Chavez here in Austin last night to a rather rousing reaction. It was the perfect place to do the North American premiere. What did that feel like? I mean, the people were cheering.
I know, it was pretty insane because I had Observer Report here and End of Watch, and I think I had Crash here as well. I've never been part of a movie that had like multiple standing ovations. And people were clapping and laughing like during the thing. It was pretty unique, you know.
Yeah.
So
it was amazing. I mean, it's one of those like, I guess sort of dream screenings. I guess if people
Dream
sort
screens?
of and you know, people sort of finding the right the moments to laugh and the moments sort of that they're impacted by what's going on. And,
I cried.
And the sort of rousing moments. I mean, as people were kind of chanting in the film, they were chanting. And it was.
We paid everybody, and it was a great investment.
Yeah, well, let's be honest.
Well.
We did. But,
Thank you for crying.
Right.
Earn your
well-earned money.
No. So the thing about this movie is that when you do a biopic like this, where people take it really seriously, it was a real person, it's sincere, okay? And sometimes sincere can be dangerous.
detrimental, yeah.
Right.
So and you have to keep the family happy, and you have to honor the man and his family, but at the same time tell a good story and
Right.
keep it moving. And you did that. I think you did that really well. And the villains are not cardboard.
I know.
You're
that's
a
what I
villain.
like. I was just telling you, I'm like, in the last interview, I'm like, I think that it's awesome when like, and it's a lot to do with Diego and all, like this is our second or third project. Like, I met him in 2000, like 14 years ago. Like, that's when we did our first project together, and it was one of the biggest things that I've ever done. I'm like, but I you know, it was tough because I'm like, especially in a movie like this, like I think the traps are like to go big and to like really try to make a difference and like, and you know, if you go to film school and that kind of thing, like there's there's like a criteria that you have to go through, and there's like. No, I'm doing a movie. This is a movie for like my brother, for my dad, you know, me for my friends, and you kind of have to throw away like the you know what I mean, the checklist sort to speak, you know what I mean?
Well, I admired you for keeping it low. You were really
It was tough, though,
very
because
restrained. No, it's hard to do. Bruce Dern talked about that. It's hard to do.
Yeah, I mean,
It's the same kind of thing.
yeah, I mean, like because I gotta be honest with you, like, is it enough? Is it like blah blah blah? And like it feels easier when like you can, you know, entertain and like, you know,
really go big.
Really go big and like create an effect. But it's you know, Chavez wasn't that guy. He was the guy who was like a reluctant to even do it. You know, he was the guy that like in meetings would sit to the side and nobody would even notice the guy. And I'm like, you know, you kind of have to keep true to that and like and just focus on like what he did as opposed to like how he spoke.
How did it feel to sort of embrace that whole the poor farm worker with dirty hands, you know, to go deep into that part of your culture that maybe you've pulled away from?
Yeah, I mean, it was like, it resurfaced and it hit you right smack dab in the face, you know, like, it was a bit different because I grew up really poor, you know what I mean? There was like, I think there was 10 of us in a one-bedroom apartment.
Where?
You know, in Chicago, south side of Chicago. I lived across the street from Douglas Park, 16, you know, in California, right by, like, it was literally Mount Sinai was here and then ghetto, like, projects right there, and then there was like 4 gangs surrounding the park, and I had my first bike for half an hour. You know, it was tough. So it like, I just needed a little bit of a you know, something to trigger the, you know, my memory of it. I went right back to it, you know, and I'm like, there was, oddly enough, there was a lot of joy like growing up, but it was hard, you know, like when you're 14 years old, 13 years old, and having to work 2 full-time jobs, you know, it sucks, you know, and I you know, I remember like always being tired, and I'm like, I kind of played that guy, like I was a little bit tired, which is like, you know, like I was talking to Diego about it, it's kind of a little bit like, you know, against the type of like how Hollywood would project this guy, you know, but we're making this movie for like moviegoers, you know what I mean? So I'm like, hopefully we succeeded. I don't know. I'm like, but the reaction yesterday was pretty cool.
You got an indication of how it's going to play for the Latino audience, I think, which is pretty huge.
Yeah,
he's a
cool.
hero. He's a hero. But you know, you've had an interesting career. End of Watch was remarkable. I thought that was one of the great movies of that year. It was on my 10 best list.
I was just telling him how much I loved it.
That's
too.
an
awesome.
incredible
Yeah.
performance that you gave with Jake, you know?
That was a little bit different because it's like everything that my guy said was was interesting and
There was great dialogue.
very
yeah,
interesting
yeah.
viewpoints, and it's
And you two could crackle
that was a
against
lot
each
easier
other.
to do than Chavez. To be honest with you, because it's like I don't know why, but I think mentally it was like which is probably you, like you played this guy who was like who had his reasons for doing what he was doing, and you didn't play him like an evil guy, like mustache twirling guy.
No.
And it's tough to do.
So, the family, did you feel a burden coming from them? I mean, were there things, like, for example, one of my favorite things in the movie is when you, when I'm so tired, when you are in the car with America Ferrara and she's been in prison and you're jealous.
That was a great
I mean, that's
scene.
the kind of humanity and the humor that sort of keeps things.
That keeps bubbling
Yeah.
up in the midst
Yeah.
of this sort of epic historical kind of moment. Yeah, I mean, it's those human moments I think that finally people connect with in the film and sort of take you to the next place and really take you on this journey and make these people real, living, breathing people.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it was like two stories. It was like the father, son, me, and then it was father, son, you.
It's true.
You know
Parallel.
what I mean? But like
Malkovich is your
Sure.
father.
I know, and it's like it's just the lack of awareness. You know what I mean, or too much awareness of like a certain their business structure, their business model, which it was interesting because they were doing what's the greater good for their company and for their thing, and we were like opposed to that because I'm like it clearly wasn't the greater good for us. So I thought that it was really interesting and really well balanced the way that those two like went head to head. It wasn't like they're the evil people, you know what I mean? But it's kind of cool, that way people can see both sides of the argument.
Yeah, and I think Diego's really did it very masterfully.
He's a good director.
He's a really good director. I think you're going to see a lot more from this guy. I don't know, just a hunch.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Right on.